Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. I'm really excited about this one.
Me too. This is such a fascinating topic.
Yeah, it really is. And our mission today is actually pretty ambitious. We want to completely change how you, the listener, look at difficult conversations and, well, conflict in general.
Right, because we are digging into the Deru Kailo system today. Specifically, we're looking at the advanced appendices and version 2.0 of its conflict navigation method.
Exactly. And this material, it basically looks at the hidden architecture of why we fight and how we make meaning of those fights.
It's incredibly revealing.
It is, because, we've all been told that communication is the key to solving literally any problem, right? Like, most fights are, quote unquote, just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's the standard advice everyone gets.
Right. But what if treating every single conflict like a misunderstanding is actually a really dangerous trap?
That is the core premise we are unpacking today.
So today, we are going to learn how to diagnose the actual type of conflict you're in. And we'll look at why trying to just understand the wrong person can actually be used as a weapon against you.
It's a huge paradigm shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's start with this foundational idea from the Deru Kailo framework. The text says, misunderstanding is often layer mismatch, not true disagreement.
Yes. People argue because they are fundamentally answering entirely different questions.
Right. They aren't even on the same page or, well, the same layer.
Exactly. The system breaks this down beautifully. Let's look at a classic layer mismatch from the sources. So imagine one person says, "That hurt me."
Okay, so they are operating on what the system calls the experiential layer, right?
Mhm.
Just stating the impact.
Right. But then the other person immediately replies, "Well, I didn't mean to."
Which is the intentional layer.
You've got it. And the fight escalates right there because the response lands on the completely wrong layer. Impact is being answered with intention.
And to the person who was hurt, that just feels like a total dismissal of their reality.
Exactly, because their experience isn't being validated.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because on the surface, this makes total sense. We've all been in that exact argument.
Oh, absolutely, countless times.
But, when I was reading the source material, it felt like this whole layer mismatch concept assumes that everyone is, well, playing nice.
How do you mean?
Well, it's like trying to fix a software bug, right? You're
Yeah.
tracking the code, looking for the error. But what if the hardware itself is just completely smashed with a hammer?
That is a great analogy.
Right. Because isn't it actually kind of dangerous to assume that every single fight is just a harmless layer mismatch? Like, maybe they aren't confused. Maybe they are just a jerk.
What's fascinating here is that the Deru Kailo system totally anticipates that exact pushback.
Right.
There is a strict warning in the advanced appendices.
Oh, right. I remember this part.
It says explicitly, "Do not call harm misunderstanding."
Do not call harm misunderstanding. That is powerful.
It is. The framework is meant to be an orientation tool, not a way to, avoid judgment or excuse bad behavior.
So you can't just wave away something terrible by saying, oh, we just have a layer mismatch.
Exactly. The text points out that some conflicts are true disagreements, some are repeated behavioral patterns, and some are actual objective harm.
Right, and you have to know the difference. Which perfectly leads us into the next big concept. Before you even ask what layer are we on, the system demands that you ask a much more serious question.
Yes. What kind of situation is this?
Because category always comes before layer. And the system introduces this concept called gate zero.
Gate zero is essentially the mandatory ethical pre-check. You cannot bypass it.
And it's basically asking if the situation is even safe to navigate, right?
Precisely. If abuse, a lack of physical or psychological safety, or coercion is present, you stop. You don't try to find the right layer.
Because you have to prioritize protection over repair.
Exactly. You do not try to repair a dynamic that is actively harming you.
But what if you pass gate zero? Let's say there's no abuse, no coercion. The system talks a lot about good faith.
It does, and it defines it very specifically.
Yeah, because I feel like colloquially, we just use good faith to mean someone's being polite to us.
Right, but according to the text, good faith just means someone is genuinely trying to clarify reality or repair the issue.
But it does not mean they have to agree with you.
Not at all. And it definitely doesn't mean they owe you endless availability to talk about it.
Well, that brings up a really tricky gray area that I wanted to ask you about.
Sure, go ahead.
So, what if the other person is genuinely in good faith, like they really want to fix things, but the conversation itself is just causing you intense, overwhelming distress?
That is such a common scenario, and the system actually categorizes it. It's called good faith but unsafe.
Good faith but unsafe. So the person isn't malicious, but the dynamic is still harmful
Exactly. A person can be completely sincere in their intentions, but you still might need to pause the conversation.
because of, like, emotional overwhelm
Yeah.
or maybe a power imbalance at work.
Yes, exactly. The text is incredibly clear on this point. Good faith does not cancel your boundaries.
Safety always comes before interpretation.
Always. You don't have to force yourself through a distressing conversation just because the other person means well.
That is honestly such a relief to hear,
Mhm.
just, on a human level.
It gives you permission to protect your energy.
It really does. So, assuming we've passed gate 0 and the situations are generally safe, we move from where the conflict is to whether it can actually be fixed.
Right. And this brings us to the cooperation assessment.
Yes, this is a 5-level spectrum the system uses to figure out if a conflict is navigable. Let's start with the first 3 levels.
Okay, so level 1 is cooperative. These participants are curious, they are open to correction, and they are responsive to evidence.
So if you show them a text message proving they said something, they say, "Oh, you're right, my bad."
Exactly. They share reality with you. Then you have level 2, which is mixed.
Mixed cooperation, so a bit more difficult.
Right. There's inconsistent cooperation, maybe some periodic defensiveness. The system's prescription here is to just proceed slowly.
You have to keep verifying that you're both still trying to fix the problem.
Yes. And if the defensiveness takes over entirely, you drop into level 3, which is defensive.
And this is where it gets really heated, right?
It does. Level 3 is characterized by high emotional activation and strong self-protection.
So they aren't even listening to the evidence anymore.
No, because their nervous system is totally flooded. The text explicitly says that at level 3, your goal is not deep interpretation.
You aren't trying to unpack childhood trauma or analyze the layers.
Exactly. Your only goal at level 3 is stabilization.
Okay, so it's like, I like to think of this like a video game. Level 1 is like playing a co-op game, right? You're sharing resources, tackling the problem together.
I love that analogy.
And then level 3 is like trying to play with someone whose controller keeps disconnecting because they're just panicking and mashing all the buttons.
Yes. You can't plan a strategy when their controller is disconnected. You just have to pause the game and let them calm down.
Right. So what does this all mean for the listener? Like, if you're in the middle of a fight in your kitchen, how do you quickly assess someone's level in real time?
The text gives us some really practical key indicators for assessment. Ask yourself a few questions in the moment. First, are your corrections acknowledged or are they punished?
Oh, that's a big one. Like, do they attack you just for pointing out a fact?
Exactly. Second, is evidence considered honestly or are they just using it selectively to defend themselves?
Cherry picking the facts.
Right. And the most important indicator, does their behavior actually change after you reach an agreement?
Because if they apologize but do the exact same thing the next day, they weren't really at level 1, were they?
No, they were not. Which leads us to the darker end of the spectrum.
Yeah, this is where things get intense. We are moving into level 4 and level 5, the strategic and adversarial levels.
Right. So at level 4, which is strategic, participation isn't about understanding at all. It's just about managing a narrative or trying to influence an outcome.
Like a PR spin in a relationship.
Exactly. But level 5, the adversarial level, is where you find true bad faith. At this level, understanding is absolutely not the goal. Winning is the only priority.
And deliberate distortion of the truth happens here.
Constantly. And what's really wild is how bad faith actors will actually weaponize this very framework against you.
Oh yeah, the source material goes deep into this. They use layer language to avoid responsibility.
Yes. If you try to hold them accountable, they will shift the topic. They use ambiguity to exhaust you.
Like, they'll ask a million clarifying questions, not because they care, but just to delay the conversation and wear you down.
Exactly. It's a tactic.
It's like playing a rigged carnival game. The rules only exist to make sure you keep losing money and they keep winning.
That is perfectly stated.
But let me push back for a second. Because if you're in the thick of it, how can you definitively tell if someone is truly adversarial?
It can be tough to spot.
Right, because couldn't they just be severely defensive and hurting? Like stuck in level 3.
It's a crucial distinction, and the text provides a fantastic indicator for this. Look for a pattern of moving the goalposts.
Moving the goalposts. So changing what they are actually mad about.
Yes. Think about it mechanically. A defensive person at level 3 will eventually settle down when they feel safe and understood.
Because the threat is gone.
Right. But an adversary escalates when they are understood.
Wait, they get madder when you understand them.
Yes, because their goal was control, not clarity. If you understand them perfectly and strip away the ambiguity, they lose their weapon. So they have to move the goalpost to keep you confused.
Oh, wow. So bad faith isn't just a layer mismatch you can repair with better communication.
Not at all. It's a totally different category.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you finally identify that you are in an adversarial situation, the Deru Kailo system dictates a fundamental, non-negotiable shift in your strategy.
It does. You have to move entirely from persuasion to protection.
You stop trying to convince them of your reality.
Yes. And the text introduces this brilliant concept called cooperation blindness.
Cooperation blindness. This is the fatal error of the whole process, right?
Yeah. It really is. It's what happens when you use cooperative strategies like being vulnerable or deep listening or offering compromises in adversarial conditions.
Because you think you're building a bridge, but really you're just handing them ammunition.
Exactly. Doing this creates a direct vulnerability to manipulation. In an adversarial loop, the most responsible next steps are never more conversation.
So what are the next steps?
Setting rigid boundaries, documenting your interactions, involving third parties like HR or a mediator, or honestly, total disengagement.
Just walking away entirely. But, I think a lot of people listening might struggle with that. How do we reconcile walking away with the desire to be a good, empathetic, understanding person?
It's a really common struggle. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the core decision rule of the entire framework.
Which is?
When the category changes, the response must change.
When the category changes, the response must change.
Exactly. The ethical aim of the Deru Kailo system is coherence without control.
Meaning, you can see the situation clearly without trying to force them to change.
Right. You can understand someone perfectly. You can see exactly why they are hurting or why they are lashing out without surrendering your boundaries to them.
Empathy doesn't mean you have to be a punching bag.
Exactly.
So, to summarize all of this for everyone listening, we've learned that while layer mismatches do explain a lot of everyday friction, we have to be vigilant about gate zero. Safety first, always.
And we have to continually assess cooperation.
Right. We have to recognize the signs of bad faith, like moving the goalposts. And most importantly, we have to know when to stop persuading and start protecting.
It's a completely different way to navigate the world.
It really is. It takes away a lot of the guilt, I think. So to wrap up our deep dive today, what is a final thought you want to leave the listener with?
Well, it draws right from the system's underlying philosophy. We are all taught that achieving understanding is the ultimate finish line of any conflict.
Right, the holy grail of communication.
But the Deru Kailo system states that understanding an adversary's interpretation does not obligate you to continue engaging with them.
Wow.
So I want you to think about a draining circular conflict in your own life right now. Are you exhausted because you are failing to understand them? Or are you exhausted because you are trying to use a map of cooperation in a territory of bad faith?
That's a profound question.
Ask yourself, what would happen if you simply stopped trying to persuade them today and set a boundary instead?